What is good, all of our listeners? Welcome to another episode of Games and Groceries. My name is Adam.
I'm Liz.
And I was super nervous on the H.A.M Radio podcast. How's everybody doing? You doing good? I was nervous on the H.A.M Radio podcast. So I said this on Twitter, on my own Twitter account, at Ace the Grocer. I was actually asked to be a guest on the H.A.M Radio podcast hosted by Mr. Matty Plays and ACG, right? And I definitely want you guys to check it out, but just a little sidetrack. As you're watching it, yes, I was like actually kind of nervous being on that show. Because beforehand, I talked to Maddie, we had a like nice little conversation. I was less nervous to like meet him because I was like, oh, cool guy. Yeah. But I wasn't prepared to witness Jeremy Penter, like ACG. Right. I was just like, when he was on the Discord and I saw him, I got a little starstruck. So when I tried to communicate him through the Discord, I was about to say, yo, ACG, what's good? But it turned out to be like, hey, ACG, hi. It was just like super nerve wracking. And all he replied was, yep.
That's me.
That's me. I was like, ACG, what's good? Yep. But they were super cool guys. We had a lot of good conversations, but you can see the first 10 minutes, I'm just like a little shaky, just making sure that I'm going to say everything right.
Yeah.
And I don't come off as like, I don't know. I didn't know how it's going to come off. But yeah, so if you're interested in seeing that, it's on YouTube. Just search H.A.M Radio Podcast or Mr. Matty Plays' channel. It's about 2.5 hours, but it's really good conversations about the new Call of Duty trailer, Death Stranding, a lot of good topics. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed being on that show. And this is the second time I was a guest on the podcast. This one and Greatest Show on Dirt. Mm-hmm. I like being on like podcasts. So if you want me on, or if you want us both on,
yeah,
Liz is here too.
I'm here. Hi. So
if you want us both on, just give us a contact. And we're also working on getting more guests on this show. Mm-hmm. It's just been really, really busy. You know who you are. But it's just been like super busy on our end. That's coordinating with another guest is kind of difficult at this point. But we definitely want to get more guests on. But we have our next guest coming on pretty soon. The voice actor for Top 3 Gaming News. So you hear like Top 3 Gaming News. Like that dude's going to come on. So I've already asked him, and he's going to be probably after the E3 episode. So Liz, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm a little under the weather today.
Yeah.
But I'm good. I'm here. I'm alive.
You're alive.
Sorta.
Yeah. The dog's here too.
He is.
Yeah. We're actually in a new studio place. We moved from out of our basement into like a better like sound quality, I guess. But
yeah, it's just a different room in our house. We didn't get a studio or anything. People, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But the dog doesn't know what to do with himself because
he's like, this is new, and he keeps exploring again. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're here. And before we get into our first segment, let's just go through our intro. You can follow us on social media. You can follow the podcast Twitter. It's at Gaming Groceries because Games and Groceries didn't fit. So it's at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
So you can follow us individually, be friends with us, tell us how much you love us, and tell us who's your favorite. You can play favorites here on this podcast. But also follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. I share behind the scenes photos, including what our new studio kind of looks like.
Yeah.
I shared that on the Instagram, some gaming memes sometimes.
Even though your mom didn't think that it looked any different. I'm just like,
yeah, how is it? Whatever. But finally, we wanted to share our website, gamesandgroceries.com, where you can listen to all of our episodes from the website. And I try to write as many blog posts as I can on it. I try to write one a week. I didn't get to it this week.
Yeah.
But you can check out all the other blog posts that I did, and I'm hopefully going to write one this week, even though it's going to be super busy at work this week. It's going to be busy
for a couple months.
Yeah, exactly.
Summer is the busiest time for a youth pastor.
It really is.
It is.
It's awful.
Summer and holidays. So basically all year.
Yeah. And the final bit of announcements before we get into our first segment, we just want to talk a little bit about the E3 episodes, what our plans are. So there's going to be 2 parts. There's going to be part 1 and part 2. That's what a 2-parter means. There's going to be a part 1 and part 2. But the first part is going to be released on Monday, June 10th. And that's going to be covering EA, Microsoft, Bethesda. I think that's all is coming out this weekend. I'm pretty sure.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. So it's going to be all from like Saturday and Sunday. And it's going to be released Monday, June 10th.
Yeah.
Part 2 is going to be released Wednesday, June 12th. And that's going to be covering all that's on Monday and Tuesday, which is Square Enix, Ubisoft, and Nintendo. So it's going to be a 2-parter.
Yeah.
And just to warn you now, they're probably going to be longer episodes. Each episode might reach an hour and a half. But we want to cover as much as we can, just to tell you what our thoughts are with each segment. I mean, Microsoft itself is going to have a 2.5 hour presentation.
Yeah.
So we're going to make it as short as we can, but don't be surprised if like each episode is like reaching past an hour.
Yeah.
But we're not going to like give you like 2-hour episodes.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep it in an hour.
Yeah.
But we're definitely not going to do 2 hours.
Yeah.
Most because I don't think our bodies can talk for 2 hours.
Oh, I did on the Ham Radio podcast.
Well, you did.
2 hours.
He did like this pose, like, I'm special.
Yeah.
I did it.
2 hours and 38 minutes. It was nuts. So yeah, I think that's all of our time for the segment, but also give us some ratings on iTunes. I want to read more iTunes ratings or wherever you put your ratings are. So if you rate us on anywhere on your iTunes, on Stitcher, just send it to me and I'll read it on the podcast. So
yeah.
With that all said, let's just jump into our first segment.
Movie Minutes.
Movie Minutes is a segment where we talk about the movies that we watched this past week, whether it be on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, or in theaters, and we just want to talk about whether we recommend it or we don't recommend it. And this week's movie is, well, before we talk about what our real movie minutes
way
is.
to play them.
Yeah, that's how I do. Let's just talk 30 seconds. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We saw it. There's just a lot of coverage on YouTube. You can see everybody's ratings, so there's really no point in us giving a full review of it.
Yeah.
30-second, it was okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a little more than Adam did, but...
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a solid movie. It's not a waste of time.
Yeah, I think it's decent.
Yeah.
Fine. Not a waste of time.
Yeah.
There's Godzilla. Boom. 30 seconds. But this week's real movie minutes is actually a Hulu exclusive. It's not a Hulu made movie, but it's exclusively on Hulu. And it's a movie starring Dakota Fanning titled Please Stand By. So, opening thoughts. What do you think of the movie?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I mean, Dakota Fanning is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved her.
And this is released in 2017, so this is older Dakota Fanning. And by older, I mean like 25.
I was going to say not older.
Well, we know Dakota Fanning as a child actress, so that's what I mean.
Well, I mean, I saw her in Twilight.
Well, yeah, but we know her as...
Well, yeah.
She's the Shirley Temple of our time.
She is.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I mean, Dakota Fanning is still amazing. She doesn't do as much now, but she is still amazing. It was just really good, and I really... it was meant to help a cause and raise awareness. Mm-hmm. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
That they like kind of did a movie to help around that and support.
So support.
Should we say what it is?
Yeah, I'll go into the synopsis a little bit.
Yeah.
So Dakota Fanning plays a young girl who is struggling with autism, right? And we see her, Fanning's character is named Wendy. So Wendy is in a group home with other autistic people. It's not even children. It's just people who are...
Yeah, most of them are older.
Yeah.
Like 18 and over. Like, I think her character is supposed to be 21.
Yeah, 21. Mm-hmm. And it's a group home that teaches them life skills, how to get a job, how to get to that job on their own.
Yeah.
So it's teaching them how to live life.
Yeah, how to care for themselves.
Yeah.
And support themselves.
So I think this movie handled autism fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely.
What I don't like about some autism like representation. Now I want to say this as a preface. I have worked with autistic children. I've worked in ministries where they treat kids with autism. I've worked with all sorts of spectrums. I'm not an expert, but I have.
You've worked with them before.
Yeah, exactly. Like in group homes and different other places. In fact, in my youth ministries, just in my church ministries, like I've had students in the spectrum of autism. So again, not an expert, but I think this handles it fairly well. And I'll get to why I say fairly well and not very well.
Yeah.
But I liked how it didn't go over the top, like with Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. They didn't go over the top, like he's, over serious and too comedic.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, let's talk about the comedic parts. This isn't some like cry over Dakota Fanning because she has autism. Like she's a basket case. There is some, lightheartedness. It's very charming. It treats autism like it's not a disease. It's something that you live with, and there's funny moments. But it's not something to laugh at. It's just that it doesn't always have to be serious. It doesn't always have to be a drama, a disease. It's just something that's a part of life.
Yeah, it's something that they just have to work with.
Yeah. But I thought the movie was incredibly charming, especially the dog Pete. Like,
oh my gosh, that dog.
That dog is, if you ever seen Floki on our Instagram, our dog, it's a squished version of Floki.
It is a squished fluffy.
Yeah, squished fluffy Floki.
Yeah.
And the whole dog plays a really good part. And it plays what do you call those animals? Mental health animals. But I can't remember. So if you think of it, just like shout it out. But the whole movie is actually emotional help dogs.
Yeah.
One of those. I can't think of it. But let's
emotional support.
Emotional support dogs, yeah. But Dakota Fanning has written a script for a Star Trek movie, and she's entering into a contest. And she has to get it to LA on time, and she doesn't have enough time. I won't get into the circumstance why. I really think you should watch this movie.
Yeah, she missed the time to send it to through the mail.
Through the post office. And so she's on her journey to LA to drop it off at Paramount Pictures.
Yeah,
Paramount Pictures. And she's on her way from San Francisco or Oakland. She's from Oakland to LA. And so it's that whole journey to get to that standpoint. And it's all has to do with the unfortunate events of humanity, right? One of the problems I have with this is that there is some really crappy people in this, and I can't. There's some things that it suspends disbelief in the shenanigans and how crappy people can be to people with autism. That I'm just like, I know there are people out there, and maybe it's because I like to see the good in people, but there's so many situations where I'm just like, people aren't this crappy,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are some people I'm just like, it just seemed like, how can you not tell that there's clearly something different about this girl?
Right.
Like, give her a minute. Like, there were some people who were like, come on, like, or like, are you kidding me about this? Like, after talking to her, like, it's like,
or trying to rip her off in a store.
Yeah.
I was just like,
well, I believe that.
I don't
people
believe.
People are jerks. That was like in the sticks.
Oh, yeah, that's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he was just a jerk.
Yeah.
But like the people who were like rushing her and being mean to her, I'm just like the bus driver.
Yeah.
When she was like, just like clearly there's something different about her. Like, don't be mean. Like, really, like I hate that thing about people in the real world. Like, because there are people like that. I'm just like, why do you have to be such a jerk? And
I think that's what messages are trying to portray, is that like, you should like not handle, again, it's not handling autism like it's just a disease, but handling it like they're people.
Yeah.
Like, treat them like a human being, like, man.
She's just more sensitive and she doesn't know these things. That's okay. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just, people are mean. Yeah. Like, even if it was someone without autism who just has never traveled outside and they wanted to get on the bus, it's like, don't be mean about it. Just be a nice person.
Exactly.
Like, you can even just take that from this movie. Just be a nice person overall, and we won't have any problems.
With the last few minutes, I just want to go into my one problem with this movie. Because when I talk about suspension of disbelief, that's not really a problem. It's a movie. There's a lot of times where you watch a movie and it's like, why did that happen? Because movie.
Yeah, because they need it to happen in this movie.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times in this film where things happen and you just ask yourself, why? Because script. That's why. Because the momentum has to keep going.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I was watching this and I was just like, I don't want to be CinemaSins, but man, it's being really hard on me right now. But it's just a suspension of disbelief. It happens because movie. But the one problem I did have with it, like illegitimate, is that it portrayed her as a very high functioning person with autism.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I understand that she was in a group home, and the whole point of group homes is to not cure autism, but have them learn.
Help them cope.
Yeah. But there's some situations where that would not happen. If you've worked with people with autism, there's one scene, and this isn't really a spoiler. She has to cross Main Street, and she knows
Market Street.
Sorry. She has to cross Market Street, right? And she knows in her head, I do not cross Market Street. Like, that's her instructions. That's in her head. That's in her operations. I do not cross Market Street. But then when she has to get to LA, she takes one breath like, I can cross Market Street. And she crosses it. I'm like, that would not happen that easily. Like, and what I have a problem with that is that saying that it takes more effort, right, from them.
It would have taken more contemplation of the risk involved.
And she would have been more terrified. She probably would have found another route around. I don't know. It portrayed her as very high functioning, and I feel like it missed the potential to really show the awareness of autism and what they have to go through. But at the same time, like I said before, this is a very charming movie. This isn't a movie treating them like they're a plague.
Yeah.
This is a movie just treating them like a human being, like going through the different lifestyles of a human being. So it's a problem for me, but at the same time, I'm giving this movie a lot of the benefit of doubt because I think this is an indie film.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it is or not, but I think this is an indie film. So there's a lot of things I give it the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
But if you're like sensitive about that stuff, just keep that in mind. Last couple seconds, let's go into our final rankings. Out of 10, what did you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I like people raising awareness and talking about autism because there are just so many people who treat people with autism terribly and like they don't understand. I'm just like, how do you not understand?
Yeah.
Like there are just some people who just complain about their behaviors. Like they're just so many who they complain about the behaviors of an autistic person. And it's just like, you can't, there are some things that they just need to do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like even with OCD,
right?
It's like there are people with severe OCD who have to do certain things. And that's just a baseline. That's just a minimal thing compared to someone with autism people with autism, there are ones that need a specific routine to get through. I don't know. It always bothers me. So having a movie that kind of shows that, I like, and I also love Dakota Fanning. So.
Oh yeah. Just last 30 seconds from me. I gave it a 7.5. And thinking about it now, maybe I'll give it an 8. A solid movie. It's just the problems of, they try to portray her with autism, and I don't think Dakota Fanning really fit the role. Right. I don't think she was trying too hard, but I don't think it portrayed it as well as it could have. Because I would rather this, where she didn't portray it enough, she missed some potential with this, than some people who overshoot it and make it seem like it's like the plague of the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather that. But I had way too many problems with the script. And some of the shenanigans that happened, and it's just like, why would that happen?
Yeah.
Especially with group home things. I'm like, why would that happen? And it just bothered me a little too much that I could not give it a 9. But I loved the effort that they tried to do, right?
Yeah.
With portraying autism, with how we should treat those with that.
Yeah.
with that disability, right? Like
Yeah.
it portrayed that well, and it was doing its best. It made a good effort to send a positive message to the world. So
Yeah.
but yeah, just want to remind you, this was called Please Stand By. This is on Hulu. If you're really interested in seeing it, not a waste of time.
No, definitely not.
Not a waste of time. I definitely recommend it. I had problems with it, but that's because, I'm picky, So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Please stand by.
Yeah.
So let's just move to our second segment.
Top 3 Gaming News.
The top 3 gaming news is the gaming news that we saw this week, and we rank it 3, 2, 1, just to give you a condensed version of what's happening in the gaming industry. And let's just start off with our number 3 gaming news. Microsoft has announced that E3 presentation will announce, get this, 14 new exclusives to the Xbox, right? So Phil Spencer went out on Twitter, super excited. I actually have a screenshot, and I'm looking it up now. I'm just going to keep talking until I have it on my thing. How's everybody doing? You doing good? That's good. All right, so I have the tweet here. Phil Spencer tweets this. Just finishing our final E3 rehearsal here with the team in Redmond. Feel really good about the briefing. Lots to show. We have 14 Xbox Game Studios games in the show this year. More first-party games that we've ever had in the show. Fun times, hashtag Xbox E3. Phil Spencer is hyping up the naysayers after a disappointing couple years with not enough exclusives. My final notes here, and we'll discuss it. Halo Infinite, Gears 5, Fable 4, these are all already announced. We know we're going to see them. But I'm thinking that we're going to see new IPs from Ninja Theory and Compulsion Games. So I'm thinking we're going to see a lot from those. And Microsoft will be holding a 2-hour presentation. So I'm very excited to see what they're doing with these 14 titles. So thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it coming because throughout the year we've seen them buy other companies and other titles and things like that. So I think we kind of saw it coming, but 14 in one in just one presentation is a lot. Like usually you kind of like, yeah, they've been collecting the companies throughout the year, but to release them, like not release them, but like to talk about them and present them like, hey, look, 14 new ones like all at once. Yeah. Is a lot.
It is a lot. And I don't think we're going to see most of them this year.
No, probably not.
We're going to see Gears 5, I think, this year. I know some people are saying 2020. I have a feeling we're going to see a 2019 date. Maybe I'm mishearing. I don't know if they said or released it yet, but I have a feeling we're going to get Gears 5 this year.
Yeah.
But I see 14, and all I keep thinking is that, well, they're showing off the next generation Xboxes.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, oh, why should you buy it? Boom! 10 games, that are going to be like next gen, including...
Yeah, they're probably going to save a lot of them for their next generation.
Yeah, Halo Infinite and Fable 4 are going to be next gen.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for Compulsion Games. Do you remember them?
I remember the name. I don't remember what games it goes with.
We Happy Few.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I still need to finish that.
Yeah.
I was so excited for it and I haven't finished it yet. I have so many games I need to finish.
But why haven't you finished it? Because of what game?
I've been playing Sims, but
yes.
But so yeah. I am determined to get all the trophies from Sims.
All.
So that's why I've been playing Sims so much, because like I want to collect all the trophies.
All the trophies.
And one of them is having 26 generations.
Yikes.
And I'm only on my third. So that I am playing Sims for a reason. I am playing it for the trophies.
Yeah.
But no, I am determined to finish Beyond Two Souls, which is I'm in the middle of.
Detroit.
Well, I haven't even started that.
Yeah.
But I am determined to play them. I need to take a break from Sims probably.
But yeah, so I'm excited for it, but my thoughts are we're not going to see those games anytime soon. You're going to see them, and it's only because we're going to see the next generation. And I think we're going to get a new IP from Ninja Theory and Compulsion Games. We're definitely going to see Fable 4 in E3. So, not too many thoughts, but I think it's all going to be next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be too excited that we're going to get like these games in the next year or two. They're going to be next gen. They're just going to tease them, and then we're going to see it like much later.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into our number 2 gaming news, and Death Stranding. We always talk about Death Stranding on this podcast. How you doing, everybody? But Death Stranding got a 9-minute trailer along with a release date of 2019.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? So during a Twitch stream, we got a 9-minute trailer showing off the story and the gameplay, and we got to see the UI, some gunplay, and a little bit more about the story of how Sam is going on this mission. A lot of people have been picking up because it's taking place in America. It's Sam. Oh, it's Uncle Sam. I'm like, oh my goodness, if that's the reason. But he's on a mission from the president to go build bridges and stuff. And we get more about this whole strand system kind of thing. What surprised me the most is that we got a release date of November 8th this year, even after the rumored slight delay. Because if you remember, Kojima once said, like, hey, I'm sorry, but the game has been slightly delayed. It's going to be a slightly delayed for a couple months. We're like, okay, February 2020 then.
It's probably going to release in like August.
Yeah, I was thinking like August or September. It was probably going to release. And then we got the November 8th, and I was like, oh, so it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was almost. That means that they were almost at the end, but they wanted to tweak it a little bit.
So I was a little surprised about that, but what are your thoughts about the release date? Well, you already shared it, but...
Yeah, I mean, that is really soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if they said that they were going to push it back a couple months, that means it was probably going to release August, September, somewhere between July and September, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And they just wanted to make sure it was perfect, and they added something when they said it's going to be a little later that was going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't show me the trailer.
I didn't.
No.
Oops.
You said that. I'm like, wait, there was a trailer? Like,
yeah, I forgot. It's been a busy week.
Yeah. So I'll watch it after we're done recording. But I mean, I have no doubt. I'm so excited for this game. It sounds really good. Yeah.
The whole trailer was just super abstract, and you got to see way more of the game than we ever have before.
Yeah.
But oh wow, I'm
excited. Do you think they're gonna say anything or show anything about it at E3?
I don't think so. And I talked about that on the H.A.M radio podcast. The reason being is because there's no studio that it would make sense to show at.
Yeah. And since he is showing things now, and he showed on Twitch stream, what else are they going to show a week after you release the trailer?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's true.
They might show it at State of Play.
They might.
Because PlayStation is having a State of Play, I believe, this Friday, June 7th. I think. I'm not sure, though, but I think it's this Friday. They might show it there. And I know Death Stranding is coming to PC pretty soon, so we might be surprised. And during the PC gaming show,
it's possible
we might get a Death Stranding trailer again. That would be really interesting, actually.
Maybe they'll go more in depth with it at E3. Who knows? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Before we move into our number 1 gaming news, I just want to read this tweet from Hideo Kojima.
Okay.
Death Stranding is not a stealth game. It's not a stealth game. It is a brand new action game with a concept of connection, the strands. I call it the social strand system, or simply strand game. Tomorrow is in your hands.
So it's not a stealth game. That means I'll be okay to play it by myself.
Yeah.
Yay.
But I'm really interested to see what this whole strand system means.
Yeah.
But
do we know how long this game is going to be? Did he say the length?
He didn't say the length of the game, but he said there's going to be long cutscenes.
I don't care about the cutscenes. I just mean more of like, how long will it take me to finish this game?
No, I don't think he said the length of the game.
Okay.
But it's Hideo Kojima, and when he said that there's going to be long cutscenes, if you've ever played the recent Metal Gear games, they're long.
Yeah.
They are long cutscenes. And
so he thinks this is longer.
Yeah, he's like saying, yes, there's going to be a Kojima long cutscene. I'm like, oh, here we go. But so keep that in mind. There's not going to be a pause menu anytime soon. So let's move into our number 1 gaming news. Number 1, Todd Howard knew that Fallout 76 would have some bumps, and he told this to IGN, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take a little bit of time on this. So my first note on this is that Howard told IGN that there were new systems in place and it was a non-traditional Bethesda game studios, but they wanted to go ahead and make it their own, right? They wanted to say that, like, listen, this isn't what we usually do, but this is the game we want to put out.
Yeah.
But we knew there would be some hiccups. Do you think that that means that, like, they didn't really consider the consumer and they were just thinking about themselves? What do you think about that?
I do think partially that is still on them.
Yeah.
Because if you want to try something new, that's fine. Like, if you're just a regular person
Right.
and you want to go try something new in your life, like you want to go try playing soccer for the first time at 35 years old, go ahead, do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you're an indie developer, video game developer, and you want to try something out of your own, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you're a huge company that's looked at and admired and you have tons of money, and when you're established like that, if you're going to try something new, you're still expected to produce a good game. Like, yeah, it's new and that's fine, but maybe you should have taken more time to do it. Maybe you should have perfected it before releasing it, or even before talking about it. Make sure that it's fine if you expect, all right, it's going to have some hiccup, it's going to have some bumps. If you knew that going in, then why didn't you work that out before talking about it, before releasing it? Like, I completely understand being one that gets so excited that you can't not tell people.
Right.
I get that. I'm that way. But when you're a big company, you can't do that. Like, they could have not talked about it for longer so that they could have made it better. Like, if you knew it was going to have hiccups, you should have waited. Sorry, I keep cutting you off, but I'm really angry about this.
No, I was going to pick up that, like, even Howard himself said, like, we wish we did the beta for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
We wish we tested it longer for 24/7.
Yeah.
And you even said that.
That was my other problem with it, was that their beta was way too controlled.
It was.
Like, they're like, you can come in during this time.
Yeah, it was
and
just
only
bullcrap.
this many people can go. Like, that's not a good beta, because it's not testing your game, seeing its abilities when you're controlling it like that. You need to release a beta as if it's the game and see where it breaks and fix it. And I still think they should have developed it longer. Like, they might have pissed you guys off who are playing it, but at the same time, they also didn't need to talk about it as soon as they did. They could have just pushed everything back if they knew it was going to happen, which he clearly stated that they knew it was going to have bumps.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm fine with bumps. I'm just saying.
And he also said that Bethesda Game Studios knows of all the backlash, but this is the game they wanted to, and they also wanted to grow it. And he even said that Howard learned, and I already said this, that the beta should have been longer, but he's learning to engage with fans and continuing momentum with this thing. I just had a problem because, yes, he was apologetic. Yes, he learned his lessons. And I can understand where a creative person wants to do something new with their life. They don't want to always do. But the problem I had with that is, like, this is the game we wanted to do. Use a different IP, man.
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying to bank on the Fallout's IP, right? When he could have just done something new. Yeah,
and even if it is, like, that's part of what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be connected to Fallout.
Right.
Like I said, you wanted to do it. That's great. And that's fine if you want to try new things. It's great when companies want to try new things and see where they can go.
Yeah.
But when you're an established company like they are, a company that has so many fans and followers, like, you are such a Bethesda fanboy, you'll almost play anything they release.
Pretty much, actually, yeah.
And them knowing that, still knowingly promoted a game they knew wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's fine. If you want to start something new, more power to you. But when you're an established company and you're watched, maybe you should have waited a while till you knew you guys could handle a game like that.
Yeah.
You know, and the other problem is that they only talked about the problems with the game.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about the problems with everything else surrounding it, like the merch. Like,
yeah.
They didn't touch on that in that interview.
Like that
I want to hear his opinion on that.
Yeah.
Like, because that was part of the problem. That was part of the heat they were getting. You know, so.
No,
I'm still mad at Bethesda.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's admitting his faults.
Yes.
And I'm glad he came out.
Yeah.
What I want more, though, is that's great you came out for one interview, but I'm seeing a lot of Sean Murray with this thing, where they're going off the radar. That Pete Hines, we haven't seen Pete Hines on Twitter in a long time. And it just feels like they're in hiding until they're ready to come out. And it feels a lot like Sean Murray, where Sean Murray really fixed No Man's Sky. It really came out. And that's what he said. Todd Howard was just like, oh, yeah, look at No Man's Sky. Look at all these online games. And they eventually get better. My problem with that mentality is that you didn't put any effort into it. And you just released it because you had the mentality like, oh, look at all the other online games. They got better over time. People still bought it. And you just
People buy Bethesda things because it's Bethesda. They expect,
yeah.
Again, they hold Bethesda to a higher standard.
And that's the thing, to bank on people to be idiots enough to buy it and then you'll fix it later.
Like, I hate when companies do that. And I've said that before on here, that like, just because you know you can fix it later and you know people will buy it, that's terrible. People invest their money, and video games aren't cheap anymore.
No.
Like,
this should have been a beta for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, this really should have been just a free early access. Or just a cheaper early access like PUBG was. I don't know if it was cheaper. I can't remember. I'm sorry about that. But that's the thing. I'm glad that Todd Howard came out, and I'm glad that he did this interview. And I'm glad he's apologetic and looks like he's learned his lessons. It really seems like he does.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact of the matter that you put it out with a mentality of like, oh, look at all the other online games. They got better over time, so we don't have to put out a good game.
So we'll fix it later.
We'll fix it later. And just that mentality kind of like irks me a little bit.
It does, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because people invest money in this stuff. And
yeah.
Again, like we've talked about this on other
shows, yeah.
On other shows before where
yeah.
Oh man, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. Well, this is a lot of silence now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I said it and you agreed and then it left. It was gone. It's like, okay, I'm done here. Bye.
Yeah.
So moving on. Sorry.
Yeah. I think we can move on to, I think we said enough. It's just that, this interview kind of like says a lot about what Todd Howard did and what the team did in Austin.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like, it puts more flame to the fire, more gas to the fire, just to say like, bro, you.
And there occasionally were times in that interview where he still sounded proud.
Yeah, and I'm proud of him for thinking that way. Like, I still have a lot of faith in this game. It's one thing to have faith in this game, but it's another thing. Oh, one last point, and then we'll move on to our last segment. That one thing where IGN asked, they were just like, he said to him, well, do you think this had any negative impact to Bethesda games or the Fallout IP? And Todd was like, I think a little bit. I mean, it would be naive to say if it had no, but I think it had a little bit of an impact. I'm like,
dude.
Yo, yes, it did.
Says the man whose company's been in hiding.
Yeah, I think it had a little bit to do with it. I'm like, it had a lot more than a little, Todd. Like, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our final segment. So our Talkie Time is our final segment on every single episode, and we just like to have a conversation piece every single episode just to talk about the games industry or any questions that we have. And this is coming back from a question from our episode 50, and we kind of reworded it to be a conversational point.
Yeah.
The question was, what game world would you want to live in? And we want to talk about why are game worlds so important in games, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to start us off with a conversation that the biggest complaint I've heard about Rage 2, other than the story, is that there's a massive world that you're in. It's a huge open mapped world, but there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
And that's why game worlds are important. End credits. No.
And done.
But the whole problem with game worlds right now is that they try to be as big as possible, as open world as possible. But the problem behind that is it doesn't feel lived in, right? Mm-hmm. And then jumping back to that, we can go relate that to Life is Strange, right? Where it does feel lived in. So when you enter into a game's world, a game's universe, what are you trying to look for when you're entering into that? What's something that you find yourself investing in?
The scenery.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just kind of, I don't really think about it.
Yeah.
It's mostly just the scenery, and like when you're playing Life is Strange Season 2 and they were in the woods, like they included bird noises and birds flying around and raccoons scurrying.
Which you didn't have to.
No, they absolutely didn't have to. And that's what I mean. Like that, like they didn't just do a forest. They included sounds and sights of a forest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
No, I like what you said that like I don't really like to think about it.
Yeah, I mean not even that I don't like to, it's that I don't think about it when I'm playing a game.
No, that's
until something's wrong probably.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that I think the best game worlds is that you're in it and you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
The problem I had, now it had nothing to do with the game world. This had to do with the graphics, the engine behind it. But Kingdom Come Deliverance, when I first played that game, I really wanted to be invested in a world, but the lag of the world made me like, it just took me out of the immersion.
Everything is glitching behind you and around you. That kind of takes you out of it.
And that's the other point is that we're not talking about graphics of a game here.
Yeah.
Because I was invested in Morrowind. If you go back to Morrowind, it does not look realistic. But
there are some people who that is what helps them be invested in it is the graphics and the precision that like Assassin's Creed has, you know.
Yeah, with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Origins, that place looked pretty.
Yeah.
But to be invested in a game world, you can't just have big map and then there you go.
Yeah.
You have to have things within it just peppered in.
Yeah.
Right? To give it flavors, seasonings. And I brought it back to Life is Strange because I want to specifically talk about season 1 where you're wandering around Blackwell Academy, right? Versus a game like Rage 2 where, you know, it's just a big open world and there's not much in it, right? There's just people to kill. But Life is Strange 1, right? When you're walking through Blackwell Academy, you're seeing you're seeing the different teenagers having conversations, playing with drones. You see a teacher that's trying to sign a petition with people. You can have different conversations, different interactions. There's skaters, right? It's filled, it's condensed, it's dense with interaction, right? And it feels lived in, right? And that's what I really liked about Assassin's Creed Origins, right? Not Odyssey. Get out there with that garbage. I can talk. Yeah. Garbage. So Assassin's Creed Origins, what it really did really well was have each character have a daily schedule. Each person had to go to their jobs. They woke up, they went to sleep, they had to go eat, they did their laundry, and it felt lived in. And that's what made me feel invested into the game. Like when talking about Life is Strange 1, you really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, like when you were talking about when they're walking around Blackwell, if you think about it, every single person in the courtyard, when you're going from the school back to your dorm, she could interact with every person, whether it was talking to them or she had a thought about them.
Yeah.
Like, so that means every person in that courtyard had a name and some sort of personality trait for her to talk about.
A backstory. Yeah.
So.
Like Samuel, the groundskeeper. Yeah.
Well, not even that. Even the ones that, like, I mean, like, if say there wasn't an option to talk to them.
Yeah.
She could still view them and would have a thought about them.
Right.
Like, every single person had some sort of story in that courtyard, and that I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not even talking about a game world that's and love, like Washington D.C. of Division 2. When I look at a game world, I want to be in that game world. I want to live in it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be bored if I live in it, right? I think this is why I was so invested in Skyrim, because it doesn't matter how far you go. You're in a different landscape. You're interacting with different people. You're interacting with different quests. Each town is much more different than the other. Like Winterhelm. Oh man, is that it? Winterhelm is different than Whiterun. Everything is like different with economies and what kind of people are there, right?
Yeah.
So you have different interactions and different stories to tell wherever you go. Right?
Yeah.
And even as you're traveling to different areas, it's not empty within the world. You have creatures, you have trees and landscapes, pretty things to look at.
Yeah.
Right? You haven't spent too much time in Skyrim, just, I guess, looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, I watch you.
Yeah. But
occasionally.
But I think the great part about Skyrim especially is the landscape.
Yeah, no, I've seen when you stop and take pictures, there are certain things like that when you go, babe, look at this.
Yeah, it's just so pretty.
Yeah.
Especially the 4K rendering of Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I need is just not just an open landscape, right? Now, do you think that a world could be too dense, like too many things going on? Like I think Life is Strange kind of touches on it pretty well, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like, what if there was too many people? Could there be a time where there's too many things going on?
Yes, but I feel like a creator wouldn't do that unless it was part of the story.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why would a developer or creator give themselves extra tons of hours of work
True.
if it wasn't necessary for the story? Like, why would they fill the courtyard with 100 people?
Yeah.
When that would mean doing so much extra unnecessary work.
Well, I think that can go into the ending of episode 2 of Life is Strange 1, where you're saving the girl, right? And there's all those people in the courtyard.
Exactly.
And there was a purpose behind that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to develop names and backstories for every single one of those people because she was just getting her way through them. Whereas if they had filled the yard outside of the school with hundreds of people interacting, that would feel unnecessary. Unless they were trying to create a specific type of emotional feeling. Yeah. Which they would have portrayed in her thoughts. Because she'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so crowded. There's so many people. I need to get back to my dorm. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they wouldn't give themselves that much work unless it was necessary for the story or emotions of the main character. Right.
Now, we're talking about, like, generally open world games, open hub games. Like Life is Strange is definitely an open hub, and Skyrim and Rage 2 are more open world. But let's talk about like linear games, right? Linear games can have a world that you're invested in, whether you want to or not. And the game I think you can relate to is Heavy Rain, right? What did you enjoy about that game world?
I mean, it wasn't realistic.
What do you mean?
Okay, you know how I feel about him jumping off the roof and her jumping out the window.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the story, but just like the world around you.
I'm just saying. That's what I mean. That part of the world was not realistic.
Jason!
They both should have died if one died. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm still bitter about that. But no, I mean, the world was very realistic. Again, I didn't think about it, so that means that nothing was wrong with it.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And I totally forgot. Heavy Rain actually takes place in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, think about that. We're both from Philadelphia. Yeah. Did you feel like we were in Philadelphia?
I mean, I don't remember specifics, but I don't remember saying like, oh, yeah, this is Philly. Like, they didn't really do anything that was specific to Philadelphia.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was more of just like, when we found out it takes place in Philly, we're just like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. It didn't really feel like Philadelphia. You wouldn't know it from the start. Yeah, because
I was about to ask you, like, is this... I'm like, what? I was about to ask you before you said it's based in Philly. I was like, I'm like, where is Heavy Rain based?
Yeah. I think Detroit Become Human has to do with Philadelphia, too.
Shut up.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, man, what does Beyond... Well, Beyond goes into different places, right? Yeah, it goes into different areas of the nature. But when we're talking about linear games, right, it has to invest you as well because you're in a short period of time.
I feel like Beyond Two Souls is Chicago. I don't know why, but that's standing out in my head.
You think Chicago?
I think I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. But even these linear titles need to have this open world that's lived in because you're invested in the story, right? But I think a good game world keeps you within the story. It keeps you in this world. It has you stay in the world, right? I think of it more of like, so say you're at a party, right? And there's a lot of good food there. You know, there's good people interactions, but let's say it's in like a really rundown home I'm talking about my old home, like my old home
Yeah.
in Philadelphia, right? Where like there's no wallpaper and there's bugs crawling around, like it's just not like a good atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
You're staying there because you like your friends, and it's really like a good party or good interactions, good times, good cheese, really good cheese and crackers. But the atmosphere around you, it doesn't make you feel welcome. It doesn't make you feel like you want to stay there, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of times where we like to clean our house a lot is because we like to give it a good atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find out where it takes place?
Not yet.
So I'm going to keep talking then. But yeah, so I think that a good game world keeps you invested in the story because it's the atmosphere around you that keeps you in it. I keep going back to Skyrim. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I don't think it's based anywhere specific. If anyone knows, please let us know because I'm actually really interested now.
Yeah. Well, it takes place in different areas. Like I think you go to Arizona at one point and you travel around.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think a good world is that atmosphere that keeps you, like I keep going back to Skyrim, and yeah, like the quests are cool and the story's fine. The story's kind of, it's okay. It's not as good as Morrowind's story, but it's the atmosphere that keeps you in it. You want to be in Skyrim. You want to be in this world, and it's what keeps you staying in it. Whereas if it was the same story, the same kind of quest, but let's say in like a less condensed area, right? It was just forest. That's it. It was just forest. There's something else. There's no people interactions. You have to go point A to point B. You want to find a drive in it because you don't want to be in that place.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why I didn't like Assassin's Creed Odyssey so much is because I didn't like the area. I hated how I had to go from point A to point B and just keep walking this boring place. And yeah, you can argue like, well, Assassin's Creed Origins just has sand. I hate sand, but I don't know. It's something about Origins. I enjoyed that world better than Greece.
Yeah.
You can call me crazy, but what do you think about all that? Like a good atmosphere keeps you invested in the story.
I mean, yes. When I'm playing games and the terrain is making me walk slower and it doesn't let me run, that makes me very angry. Because if I have the option to run in games, I run just because I'm impatient.
Yeah.
So if it's a game where the terrain is making me walk slower, like in snow, like in Beyond Two Souls, there's a part where she's walking in snow at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that at all. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. You don't want to deal with it, but at least it's like...
But it is very realistic, and I do appreciate that. So I guess that's okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing about a landscape, is that it has to be condensed enough to be realistic enough that, yeah, maybe the snow gets on your nerves.
But it is realistic.
Yeah. Like, you reminded me about Assassin's Creed 3. The really cool part about that people just freaked out over before we got the story, is that there was snow levels in it because it had to take place in North America.
Yeah.
And the snow actually slowed you down as you ran. So you had to climb the trees and just jump through the trees. Because if you're trying to run through enemies in the snow, you're actually slowing down in the snow. And it's that part of the landscape that's realistic and lived in, and it's actual snow. And you're just invested in the story that much more because, okay, I need to get to point A to point B, and I can't walk in the snow because I'm too slow. And I have to climb the trees. That's it.
Yeah.
But so I think the last point I want to make about like why game worlds are just so important to us is that it goes back to our last episode. Our last episode, we talked about why do video games create memories, right? And I think this relates well to this because you love a video game so much. It creates memories in you because you go back into a game world. And if you've invested enough time in a certain place, you start to get nostalgic about it, right? Think about like if we were to go back to Philly, right? And we go through the Roosevelt Mall, right? There was this like little...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the Roosevelt Mall or Franklin Mills. It's Franklin Mills.
Actually, you said Philly and I imagined the Acme on the boulevard. And
yeah,
I was just like, I don't know why my brain went there. I was like,
yeah.
Waiting for the bus.
And that's the thing. You're in an area, you're in a landscape, you're in a game world, and it takes you right back to when you were a kid, right?
Can we make a video game based in Northeast Philadelphia? Can someone do that for me?
Well, I know Tony Hawk's Proving Ground has to do with North Philadelphia.
See, I never lived there though.
Yeah.
I've only ever lived in the Northeast.
Bummer. Oh, I still have to play Homefront, The Revolution. That has to take place in Philly.
Ew.
Yeah, so I think there's some parts in Northeast Philly. I'll have to play that. I really have to, because it takes place in Philly, and that goes back to like, well, we won't talk about that.
Sorry, I got us so off base.
Yeah, but going back to the memories, because we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Honestly, but because you spent so much time, that's where you become nostalgic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I still remember Fallout 3, and that first awakening. I didn't like it as much as Fallout 4. Or Fallout 4, I didn't like as much as Fallout 3's reveal. But when you first open the doors of Vault 101, right? And you get to see Washington, D.C., all in the nuclear wasteland. And you get to see the entire landscape. It's just that fresh feeling like, childhood.
Yeah.
And you just go out into the wasteland. And you just have a blast. And you're walking through the wasteland. And you're like, I remember when I was here. And you can remember about the times when you first went there and what you were going through in life and what friends you had and what friends you told this to and annoyed because you were talking too much about Fallout 3's Wasteland. But it's just this epic nostalgia trip, right?
Yeah.
When you go back into a game world, it should bring you back nostalgia. But when the game world is empty, there's nothing really to mark a memory with.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think about all that?
No, I agree. And that kind of goes into my way of thinking is that because we had also talked about how when you're in a game, it is almost like you can visit those places.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes with the nostalgia thing where it's like, I've never been to Washington, D.C., but when you played the Division 2.
Yeah, Division 2.
Division 2. It was like, oh wow, that looks like what DC, and you even recognize there were places you knew where you were going because you've been to Washington DC. You're like, oh yeah, just go right up this street. Yeah,
I've been to DC a few times, and I first got into Division 2. It's not totally perfect, but that's hard to do. But I just walked through. It's like, oh man, I remember this, and I was trying to find the Jefferson Memorial. And I was like, hey, there it is.
See, I've never been anywhere interesting.
Yeah.
So if they were to make games where I knew where I was going, it'd have to be in Northeast, Center City.
Yeah.
Or South Jersey.
I'll have to pick up Homefront: The Revolution because I know the game is glitchy, and I got super bummed. By the way, that was a super easy sell in GameStop when I worked there because I worked in Philadelphia. And it's just like, hey, do you want to pre-order Homefront: The Revolution? They're like, I'm like, it takes place in Philly. And they got super interested in.
Yeah, if you're from Philly or if you know anyone from Philly, honestly, if they're not into something, tell them it's based on Philly.
Yeah, and they'll be like,
They'll be like, oh, okay.
I still remember when I watched The Happening. Oh my goodness. But anyways, I watched The Happening in theaters in Philly, right? And The Happening's all about this disease that's making people like trip out and like kill themselves. It's a horrible movie, like with a horrible disease, but the disease was coming to Philly. And like you read on the screen, Philadelphia, PA, and the whole theater's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, that means we're gonna die.
We really love where we're from.
Yeah. But I haven't picked it up because I heard it's super glitchy. But I heard ACG said that it's completely fixed too.
That's good.
So I'll have to pick that up, and I want to see like how close it got to Philly. But that's the other thing. You walk through a game world that you're familiar with. Like if you listen to Good Game, Great Game. What's up, guys? How you doing? If you look through Good Game, Great Game, I believe it's Andrew Orsi, who's from West Virginia. And he said he went through Fallout 76.
Yeah.
And he went through there and he's like, oh, it's based in West Virginia. I love West Virginia. And he just had a good time there until he realized it was Fallout 76. And then he had a bad time there.
But I was going to say that they did do a lot of work making sure it looked like West Virginia. And I appreciate when people do that. So that's what I mean. Like when you're in games and like even Assassin's Creed, like, you know, you can see what those places looked like back then. You know, they did if you read or watch any videos or interviews or documentaries, they worked very hard on making sure they got Origins to look as much like ancient Egypt, as close as they could. So that's appreciated, that you can see what these places look like. And even the past Assassin's Creeds, a lot of them are in Italy, and you get to, even if you've been to Italy now, you weren't in Italy back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see what that was like. And I always like that because I like history stuff. I like historical stuff. So
yeah, Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection, like all has to do with like Rome and Italy, and like I loved that trilogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the importance of game worlds is just like it needs to place you into a world that's believable and it's dense and there's people in it, and the importance of that. And you like you said, and this is the closing thoughts. It's just the little details that make the difference.
Yeah.
And where you said that Life is Strange 2, they didn't have to put the raccoons or the birds chirping or the birds flying.
Yeah.
But it took those details, right? Even in Assassin's Creed Origins, the Falcons and the Hawks actually had a flight plan, right? And they landed in nests. Same thing with Skyrim, I believe. It had flight plans with the birds. And it's just those things that they don't have to do, but it makes it so much more believable, and you want to be in that world. And it's because of those things that it keeps you invested in the story. Like I said, the last note I have is just, and I said this already before, but yes, the story drives you, but the game world keeps you invested. The game world, my dog is scratching himself. But the game world keeps you invested within that realm, and you want to stay.
Yeah.
Just like with a party, there's good friends, there's good times, good food. But if the atmosphere is really crummy, you're just like, this is great, but can we leave now?
Yeah.
You know? But a good game world keeps you driven within the story, right? Any other closing thoughts?
No, I think we kind of summed it all up.
Yeah. But so if you're new to this podcast, if you listen to us on, or just me on the Ham Radio podcast, Liz wasn't on there.
No, I wasn't invited.
Yeah. So
that's okay. I really don't have enough opinions on gaming news to be on a whole podcast for 2.5 hours on gaming news.
But if you're new to this and you're just listening to the conversation for first point, this is what we do. We just take a topic about the gaming industry and we just have a conversation. It's nothing too serious. It's nothing to take in like really literal, like what technical advantages the game worlds have. But it's just a conversation point, and I hope that you talk along with us. So you can follow us on Twitter and just give us your opinions. That's all we like to do. We like to just start conversations about games. So definitely continue conversations with your friends and with us.
Yeah, you can talk to us on Twitter. You can talk to me on Twitter.
Yeah, we like to talk to you guys. So if you're new here, we like to just start conversations about the game news, movies, and just random gaming topics. So we would love to have you join along in our little journey of podcasting.
You can talk to me about Sims and Sims 5 going to be at E3.
It's not going to be at E3.
Yes, it is.
That would be interesting. That would be a good surprise at E3 if they
Exactly.
They are going to have a panel about Sims 4. They're going to be streaming Sims 4. I don't know what that's going to be about.
Even if they just said Sims 5 isn't coming out till 2027, I don't care. I just want to know.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know, is it happening and when? Even if they say it's not happening, I just need to know.
Yeah. True. All right, so let's just close this out here. But we just want to remind you again to follow us on social media. Firstly, on Twitter, you can follow us at Gaming Groceries. That's the Twitter handle for this week's podcast. This week,
that's the name. Next week, it's going to change.
But the podcast Twitter handle is at Gaming Groceries. You can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
So you can follow us individually and tell us which one of us is your favorite. Obviously, me. How you doing?
That was weird.
You can follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. You can also check out our website, gamesandgroceries.com, where you can listen to all of our episodes. You can read the blog posts that I write eventually. And you can even see some of the ratings that people have given us. And if you want to be on the website with your rating, just send us your rating, where you send it to, and you have your chance to be on the website. And just people check out your review saying like, hey, Adam's super cool.
Okay.
Super cool guy.
Anyway.
And Lastly, just to remind you again, we have a 2-part series on E3 coming up. First part is going to be coming on June 10th, second part on June 12th, and these might be a little bit longer. And the last point I'll make, speaking of long episodes, definitely check out the Ham Radio podcast. I was a guest on there. We talked about everything that happened this past week. So it was a lot of fun. Really long episode, but it's so worth your time. So definitely give that a check out. So anything else I missed?
No, I think you covered it all.
All right, sweet. All right, we thank you for listening to this week's episode. We hope to have you back for next week's episode where we talk about E3. Woo! That was synchronized. So we hope to have you back that next week. So have a good week. Talk to you later.